Alright guys, Mark here, just to remind you before today's episode that we are on Patreon. For as little as just £3 a month, you can sign up and get access to an extra episode every 2 weeks, plus bonus content from all our previous live shows, including behind the scenes footage and even a behind the scenes documentary from the Edinburgh Festival as well. Myself and Stuart both have stand-up shows on sale at the moment. We're both doing tours. Stuart's is in March, mine's is primarily in May and June, although I've got a couple of dates at the Glasgow Comedy Festival as well. St Luke's on the 24th is sold out, as has the early show at Blackfriars on the 15th of March. But the late show on Saturday the 15th of March, still tickets available for that. Still tickets available for the 30th of March as well. Stuart has just dropped his new stand-up special, Love That For Me, on the Some Laugh YouTube channel as well. So please check that out if you haven't done so already. It's an absolutely brilliant show. And as I say, hopefully sees over on the Patreon. It keeps us going, it keeps us growing, keeps the pod rolling along and giving you more of the episodes that you hopefully do love. So hopefully see you on the Patreon, see you on tour, and aside from all that, guys, enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Some Laugh podcast.
It could be like, oh, that was some laugh, or there was just some laughs.
Some laughs.
Well, no promising all laugh.
No, there's going to be some.
It's some laugh.
What a great anecdote.
Okay,
The lost anecdote.
The lost anecdote.
Imagine trying to retread that
Can't
word
do
for
that
word.
again. That's it. I know. That's the awful thing about like recording the pod is like a few times at the start we'd have like technical issues or something. You think you've got really good stuff, and then you just would look in the thing and run out of batteries or something, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Are you all self-taught with this stuff? Or have you...
By all you mean me?
I'm yet to be taught.
That would be yes.
Splinter and Leonardo. Sensei and student.
I don't
Yes.
think. I don't think you're a student, are they?
I'm not trying. No, I'm not good. Not a good student. Not a good student.
Not at all.
But no, it's self-done, self-produced by yourself.
Yeah.
It's really impressive.
Thank you.
There you go.
Aye. Well, it's like over COVID and stuff. Like I just learned a lot of that stuff, and even just how to edit clips and all that kind of thing. So it stood us in good stead now. But yeah, it just was a bit out of necessity more than anything else, you know.
Yeah. I do my clips. I do all my own stuff. But I do them on Adobe Premiere Pro.
Premiere Pro.
Is that what you use?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
a thing? Yeah. Because I did a filmmaking course last year. And they said, this is what all the big directors use. And it was the same program. And I was like,
really?
I think I'm way overextending what I need to use for my clips.
Well,
Because
If I'm up there with Spielberg,
yeah. Scorsese's using the same thing as me to do my diarrhea joke.
Premiere's really good, but there's one called DaVinci that everyone uses because it's like free and you can pay a wee bit for the professional one. But that's a lot of people say that's what the professionals use now for films and stuff. And I think like my mate Nick, who edits and directs stuff for us, like he uses DaVinci. It's better for grading and all that apparently. So.
it's above my pay grade.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to do the tube anecdote again, Sean.
Should we try it?
We'll try it.
No,
I think we should
no.
let the audience know that I just said this and then realised we were on the recording.
I don't want to hear it again.
I basically just seen Sean on the tube one time when I was in London, and I didn't know if he knew me, and I didn't want to break the whole London thing of like nobody speaks in the tube. Because imagine I'd done that and you didn't know me, and then you're like, oh, this
That would be
towner.
embarrassing.
It'd be embarrassing.
It wouldn't have been embarrassing at all. I'm so bad at remembering people's names and faces. I've actually got really good patter in that situation.
What would
So
you have done?
You've done your 10,000 hours.
Yeah, I've done my 10,000 yeah. I'd have probably said something like, oh man, I thought it was you, but I thought, oh, you couldn't be here. Like, that's what I would say. And you would have been like, you're right, I shouldn't be here. I don't live here. That's what I do.
You're not allowed in London.
Yeah, I thought we barred you. That was the whole Sadiq. I was on the Sadiq's bus, the whole thing. But no, I appreciate it. I was actually approached by a comic who I knew recently on the tube. I mean, I can't name the guy, but he must be thick as shit because he approached me as me and my wife were clearly having an argument.
Yeah.
Like we're clearly having a bit of nothing terrible, but like
Which
a
is
bit.
standard and acceptable on the tube.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's. That's why
That's
we
what
went.
it's for.
That's
yeah.
why we weren't even going anywhere.
Let's take this one underground,
Yeah,
baby.
exactly. Yeah, and see what the rats think of us. But then he came over and goes, "Hey man, how's it going?" I just thought, yeah, it's okay. She's just said I've ruined her life. But yeah, how are you? How are you doing?
How frequent is it? How frequent would you have public arguments with your partner? Do you get to a point where it's like, was there a point where it
Horrible
never
podcast
happens?
question.
My word. My wife will listen to this. She'll probably only listen to the first 10 minutes.
Right.
So
Come back
Also,
to
our,
the
Maybe we
our
kick
partners
this
know
in-
each other as well. They can cross-reference.
we don't have public arguments that much.
Yeah.
We don't argue that much. But I do. I mean, it has happened.
Yeah.
It's rare, but it does happen.
Because I remember once when I was with my ex, who I think we just didn't really, I think, we didn't quite click, and there was, whatever, for whatever reasons. But I remember we used to argue quite a lot, which was an unusual thing for me to get used to, much like a relationship. And, but I remember one time we were arguing outside her flat, and then we seen our mate Sandy walk by, and I seen through his eyes what we were doing.
Yeah.
And it was like, I was like, God, is this what it come to? But I guess it's more common than.
Well, I mean,
I would have thought.
people should view it as normal because what the ebb and flow of a long-term relationship is. There's times you don't get on, even just for an hour, even just for 5 minutes. But that said, whenever I witness friends of mine having an argument, like couples I know, I never take that stance. I'm always like, oh, this shit's on the rocks, and I've got
front row seats.
I've got front row seats. Yeah. This is surge pricing. Is doing a job on this. Yeah. But it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. Don't you love it? You see people having an argument.
Oh, you're seeing it.
I don't like arguing. I'm not argumentative. But seeing it,
Yeah.
I find explosive. I pick a side early.
Yeah. You want to watch the show. You don't want to do the show.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's like going to see Hamilton or something. I don't want to do that, but I watch it.
It's interesting you say you're not argumentative, Sean, because you're a very nice-natured guy, but on stage you are very, you've got an argumentative style, I would say.
That's interesting. I think, sometimes. I definitely am fearless up there. It's the only time I feel like I'm fearless. I'm actually, I've mellowed a lot as a comic, I think, in the last few years.
Uh-huh.
But I do, I would say things to people on stage I would never dream of saying to anyone. Do you not feel the same, or do you feel like?
Yeah.
I don't feel as inhibited as that sounds, but I do feel more bold to.
Yeah.
I actually think in a weird way it's sort of crept into my normal life, and sometimes I say stuff that I shouldn't say off stage
Comedian
to
destroys
people.
traffic warden.
etc. Yeah, we've got previous for that, but and so you mellowed it. Do you think if you just mellowed more as a person, would you say?
I've always been quite mellow. Like, I've never known where this came from. Like, I've never been angry. I've never shouted. I've never. My wife said, I remember when me and my wife started going out, she said, I can never imagine you being angry at anyone. And then she saw me live. And she still thinks that. She's like, I don't know who that person is. I don't know who that is. But
Really?
it's interesting, yeah. But I just, I enjoy it. I enjoy a ding-dong. I think it's probably because I started doing open spots. I was like in the north. I was like 20 years old. And I was going to like Darlington and Hartlepool. And like you had to just take control of these horrible rooms.
Yeah.
And that probably just fed into you when you start doing nicer gigs. I never really made the transition,
Right.
I'm still on fucking Stag and Hen. It's Friday night in Red Car and someone's about to get glassed. I'm still in that mode.
Totally.
Even when I'm doing a theatre.
Yeah. I always remember a weekend I done, and it was like one was in like a golf club or something where it's one of those combative environments, and then the very next night doing a theatre where they were very much just like, okay,
You don't need
show
to
me your
bat them
act.
over the head.
Similar to what the Fringe and stuff is like often, and like I just remember thinking, oh wow, like some of these skills that you develop in these combative environments, suddenly when you've got a nice, like you're playing in a nice surface, so to speak, you're actually, a few of these I'm relying on this too much, or it doesn't come in handy,
Yeah, I find that interesting. It's so hard, isn't it? When you start doing comedy, how long have you two been going?
I've been going 10 years.
About 12, 13.
Yeah.
something.
Because you start and it's like you have to do really bad rooms to bad audiences, and you're terrible.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous that you have to get good at playing terrible gigs in order to play good gigs. And I think a lot of it is that. And I feel for the people who never get through that initial bit, because when you're playing nice gigs, it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah,
But so many of them are bad.
absolutely.
And if you, but also I think if you're kind of airlifted into the good gigs too early, there's so many tricks that you're missing. There's so many nights where I think you can come unstuck.
Yeah, you just need to do just enough bad gigs, don't you? And get enough.
You don't want to
good
get
ones
trapped in the bad ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And that can happen. But then it's, as you say, the other way around, where folk are just, they've never quite been able to, they've never had to do those kind of gigs, and then so they've maybe not got those gears or just not got that kind of skill.
I got gears, man. I got a blue set. I got a smart set. I've got they're all twats set. They're drunk. I can do it all, man.
Do you do you actually consciously have that, and have you got like compartmentalized the blue set or whatever?
No, I don't. I mean, I probably do without realizing.
Aye.
I mean, there's definitely stuff you do sometimes that you'd never do other times.
Uh-huh.
But I still think you can kind of get anyone to laugh at anything if you know how to frame it.
Interesting.
I don't think there's much difference between people.
Well, I was listening to you on Stuart Goldsmith's Comedian's Comedian, and you'd said something like you would call, so, and for what comics we call a joke that works all the time's a banker, and you said something along the lines of like, you now consider a banker to be if your wife was being held at gunpoint, you'd be able to make the guy laugh.
Yeah. That's what I consider. Yeah. Because there are when you go in a while, there are some jokes that you've got that you're like, this it will work. It will genuinely always work. And they're so rare, they're like 4-leaf clovers. Because the stuff I thought was good when I started is just it's such trash. But like you do it long enough, and sometimes you need those bankers. I mean, this is not an invitation to like take my wife hostage and see if I can make you laugh. I don't think that'll work. But, yeah.
Certainly would help the argument, I guess.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. What was that about me not doing the dishes, eh? Because I could get you out of this, babe. I can get you out of this.
Now, Sean, I have seen you. This is a weird way to start this question, but I've seen in the past people say sometimes you look like Lionel Messi,
Yeah.
and also a bit of Jeremy Hunt. Have you had that?
Yeah.
Now, the Jeremy Hunt thing I bring up because you talk about in one of your last specials that you ran to be for the Youth Parliament.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, so I could have been like a junior Jeremy Hunt. I hate how I look. I hate it. Because every day a new person is thrown at me.
Yeah.
All uglier than the last. It's clear that I'm declining, like my looks are going. Yeah, I was like a little I was such a little shit. I remember there was this thing called the UK Youth Parliament, which I don't even know if it still exists.
It does exist because a friend of ours, a partner, works for it, actually.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I went in. I remember they came into our school, and I went to a huge school in Brighton. It was like there were like 2,500 people went to my school, one of the biggest state schools in the country, I think. And like they talked about this thing, and I remember them saying this would be good for university applications, and I like my parents would always been like, you've got to go to uni, like it'd be because they were the first in their generation to go, first in their families, and I was not a good student, and so I thought, I can do this, and that will make up for how dumb I am, and so I ran to be like a student politician. I didn't know anything about anything, and because my school is so big, like it's so big, they were able to just pool the votes like it was citywide. And I came second in Brighton to another guy. And there were occasionally I'd have to go to like meetings and stuff. It was like I was not like a tough or cool kid, but I would turn up at some of these meetings. And I was like, you virgins. Like, what am I doing with you? Like, but it was pretty interesting. Like a couple of the people who I was with then have become MPs.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you lose it to Caroline Lucas or something?
Yeah, one of them was a Green Party MP in
Wow.
Brighton. Yeah, and he's been in trouble. Like he's had national problems,
Right.
because of his ego. It was. I can just say it. It was the other guy who stole the. In Parliament when there's the thing down.
Ceremonial thing.
Yeah.
The big fucking sword thing.
Whatever the
it
fuck
is.
that is.
The guy who. There was a guy who stole it and ran away with it, like an MP, and it was him. And I knew him when I was like 15. I knew this guy, and he was a few years older than me. And I remember thinking he was such a idiot. I just thought he was the dumbest idiot I've ever met. And he is. I mean, he is. He was just because also it was mainly like private school people.
Yeah.
And so I was not one of these people at all.
No.
It was a pretty funny experience.
Do you remember any of your policies or anything? Did you have to do that kind of stuff, or
No.
was it more just like?
I think I can't remember what they were. I mean, I think I genuinely stood up in front of like my year and I had to do a speech. And
First gig, really, isn't it?
It was our first gig, and I did crush it.
You get some laughs?
Yeah, big time. Because I was the joke candidate. I was Trump. I was vote chaos. I was like, no one knows what this means. It doesn't mean anything. I'm gonna clean up this dirty town. I was like, drain the swamp. We don't need any of that. And then it was genuinely like Trump or like Boris was like, you actually get the thing that you. It was all a joke.
Yeah.
You know. And then I'm having to go to fucking Eastbourne on a Saturday. I want to be playing Smash Bros, but I have to go to Eastbourne with genuinely some of the saddest. Like I don't even know how they get up in the morning.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you're listening, good luck to you. But yeah, it was a pretty wild experience. I put it in that show because I'd never talked about it really. I'm so embarrassed by it, and it's so not representative of like my teenage years.
Yeah.
Like I was not like a tearaway, but I liked getting drunk and hanging out with my friends. This was so different.
Yeah.
You know.
That's great.
Well, did you go to uni?
Where?
No,
Or
well,
did?
yeah.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, well,
And
was that worth it then?
No, I shouldn't. I got a third man. I shouldn't have gone. Tony Blair really did a number on me because Tony Blair comes in and he's like, everyone's going to go to uni and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't have gone. I was not smart enough to go to the uni I went to. Certainly not for my course. I studied English language at Newcastle. I was so dumb. I was like, I'm so dumb. And like, I had to learn about how words are formed in the mouth. I was like, I hate this.
Yeah,
and there was only
phonetics.
about 2 years in, I realised I could have just changed course. I didn't know that was an option.
You were too dumb to realise that.
Too dumb. Yeah. They give me a book. I go, what is? Yeah.
But you just think, because you're not a dumb guy, you know, you write a lot of great stand-up these days, so like, would you think it was just you weren't interested in school and stuff like that? And
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I do think that. I think I just never liked it. I was always, and not, you know, and I love learning. This thing, I was curious. I love learning. And now it's like, if I would love the chance to go to uni now,
Yeah.
in my late 30s.
You went to a Catholic school, did you not?
Yeah.
What does that mean in England? Because it's a different thing here in terms of, because basically there's like two types of school in every, certainly in Glasgow, and like every place is a Catholic one and a Protestant. It's just because of like historic stuff.
Yeah.
But what is that like?
It's probably not as intense as it is here.
Well, I don't know, because so did you have like nuns as teachers and stuff? Or?
No, we didn't have nuns as teachers.
Right.
But it was in a nunnery. It was in
Right.
like an old nunnery.
Well, that seems more intense than anything I had experienced.
We used to do cross country, and I was in the cross country team actually.
Uh-huh.
And
And it was an actual cross.
it was
Yeah, on your back. Good luck running with that.
yeah, man. It was rough, man. I tell you, it was rough. But we had to like whenever we did cross country PE, or like if I had to do training, I did it like 3 times.
Yeah.
And then I came 70th in a meet, and then they kicked me out.
You look like a runner though. Do you run now?
I do run. Yeah. You would not say that if you saw me run. You would not say he looks like a runner. You'd say it looks like he's running from something. Yeah. But there was a nun's graveyard in the school that we used to have to run over. I
Aye.
always thought that's a bit freaky, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's pretty weird. I mean, I would say my upbringing was, by the standards of today, and even by the standards of them, very Catholic, but not super Catholic. But I went to mass every Sunday.
Yeah.
I knew the priest. He came to our house sometimes. My mum was in the choir. She's still in the choir. And none of it's like, it's not intense. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's pretty Catholic, I think. I don't know if that's the case.
Well,
Was that the case for you?
Well,
or-
yeah, growing up, like most
Yeah.
people at my school would probably go to mass on the Sunday, and like, because my parents, like, not overly religious, but I guess kind of like my mum's parents were more so. Like my gran is still pretty Catholic, so I guess I don't know whether it was drummed into them, and then because we were at the school, they felt they had to take us, and then as it as we got older, they stopped caring, or whether I think it's partly that and partly just a sign of like just the culture shifting and people not being as arsed about it anymore as they were back then.
Well, I'll tell you where it's definitely different. It must be, because it is obviously in Scotland and Glasgow in particular. It's a different thing because of the history.
Yeah.
There are so many people who were doing the bare minimum to get their kids into a Catholic school, because I think our school was one of the better comprehensives in the city. And so there'd be people who were not like, most people I knew had never been to a church since they were like a baby.
Yeah.
And they didn't know their way around a hymn. And I was the cock of the walk. I mean, I was there every week, you know? So I knew what was going on. But it's a strange thing, because I'd never met anyone until I went to uni. I just assumed everyone knew about the Bible and everyone knew about, and no, it turns out they don't.
A lot of people don't. I know it's mad when you realise that, and actually like the kind of gaps in people's knowledge, and you think these things are just kind of like sort of universal references. Suddenly,
I'm yet to learn that as well.
Really? Yeah. I mean, the one thing I would say is, for an organisation that is trying to like change its image, the sheer rate of student-teacher like inappropriate relations in the religious department of our school, it is like shocking. Yeah. Like basically every head of RE was ousted after 18 months because they've been copping off with like a 14-year-old. Like it's crazy, man. Yeah, it was pretty mad. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird thing when you look back on it, but it's like when you're growing up, it's just kind of all you know, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not that taxing.
No,
like,
it's not.
At time, it feels awful. You get up on a Sunday. I've got to go to mass. I've got to.
Yeah.
But then you sit there for an hour. Your mum buys you a Freddo. It's all right.
That's it.
Like, you can get away with it. Yeah.
It's the ritual. Do you feel that people talk about Catholic guilt and all that stuff a lot? Do you have any of that? I don't ever remember really learning about like original sin or any shit like that. Maybe it was like in there or something, but I don't know.
Yeah. If it was like between the lines. I don't think so. I mean, it's still, even though it was like, I guess, a while ago now, it still felt like it was relatively modern. Like, the church didn't rub stuff in your face. And the school, because it's still a public, it's a state-run school.
Yeah.
So they have to teach you what's on the national curriculum, But I don't know if that's still the case now. But
yeah. Who knows? I've absolutely no idea.
Did you have a religious upbringing?
No, not at all, really. There was like weird wee bits of it. I just went to a non-Catholic school.
Non-denominational.
But like occasionally you'd go to assembly and there would be a priest and they would do like a hymn. But there wasn't enough of it where it was like a thing. Everyone was just kind of confused.
Would it be a priest or would it be like a reverend or vicar or something?
Minister, I guess.
Aye,
a
so
minister. But it felt more like a mixed bill, We're getting, could be anyone coming up here. Fucking puppet show. Could be, minister. It's just like, what is going on here?
You just never
it's confusing to us.
I'll tell you, we had come to my primary school. Because I was Catholic, I went to my play group was in the church, and then Catholic primary, Catholic secondary. Primary, we had Prince Andrew came to the school. Which, I mean, what a sentence to say today. But I just remembered this. It was the biggest story. It was on the local news.
Yeah.
Like we watched the news that night to see if me and my sister were going to be on the news. Because he was in the Navy or something.
Just need to fast forward 30 years.
We're in the news. Like, a sketch drawing of us pointing at him. It was pretty funny. Like, they gave us a pen. Because apparently he had a ship that was the same name as our primary school, called the Cottesmore. That was the name of it. It was Cottesmore St. Mary's. And so Prince Andrew came. So that was a bigger deal than any priest. And I mean, when the priest started showing up after that, we were like, fuck this.
Yeah. Again, in retrospect, not doing a lot to change their image either, having Prince Andrew.
No, I would say, there was a lot of sex offenders in and around my childhood. But not in, around. I meant to make that clear. Not in, around.
That's probably what he was doing there. Maybe.
Who knows what he was up to? Yeah.
Can use a bit of the pen though.
But you know what? Innocent till proven guilty.
One thing I remember from your stand-up was you were talking about, I don't know whether I'm kind of real life in here, whether this is just a bit, but you were talking about, who's it that wrote Heart of Darkness?
Joseph Conrad.
Joseph Conrad. I nearly said Joseph Coney. Do you remember him?
No,
Coney 2012 had a child army.
Coney?
Oh yeah, Cody 20. I think I didn't really know what the hell people were talking about.
In your stand-up, you were saying that you wanted to be like Joseph Conrad.
Yeah.
You had like artistic ambitions that
it's
stand up falls so short of. Is that true?
Yeah, really true. I wanted to do everything, and still sometimes I'll have meetings. Like I'll talk to my agent or something. Oh, maybe I could do that. I could do this, or I still think I could do this. And I see them going, "What the fuck? You can barely do stand up. What, you think you can write a novel? You can't even do this." But I was really like I was pretty creative, I guess. Like I loved writing stuff and making stuff. I thought that was just the best. And yeah, I was like, yeah, I guess it's sort of teenage delusion. You go, yeah, I'll be a big filmmaker, and then I'll make that and do that.
Well, you got the software now.
Well, I guess ChatGPT could do a lot of the work. I could just say, yeah, write a novel about this. But no, it's funny. Stand up just has consumed so much of my adult life and pretty much all my creativity. And frankly, now I'm 37. Now's the first time I feel like I have even enough headspace to think about doing other stuff properly.
Yeah.
So were you 20 when you started?
Yeah, I was pretty young. I was at uni. I might have even been 19 actually. Yeah, but just to be honest, first 2-3 years I was doing like one gig every 2 months.
Yeah.
Not really knowing what the hell was going on. I was busy failing my degree. I couldn't commit to both. But I do sometimes wonder if that was too young. I do wonder. It's like I could have had a bit more time not doing this.
We bit life experience.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
There's a weird thing. I always think, because I've done a couple of gigs when I was 20, and then 20, yeah, that would have been 20, and I kind of properly started when I just turned about 22, and I sort of feel like, I don't know if someone else has said this, but you're almost like kind of frozen in time to when you started, because like now when I'm trying to think, what do people who don't do stand up think, and try to kind of have that offstage mentality, I suppose. Like I'm in my head, I'm still in.
Not really had a normal life since you were 20.
You've not. That's when you stop being not a normal person, but like it's just life's a bit more weird.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm lucky that I had such a slow start. Like it took me so long to get going, and I was working so many day jobs for years.
You worked in a call centre?
So I've worked at 4 call centres in my life.
I've worked in a call centre for years as well.
What were you doing?
I done car insurance, so it was customer service.
Is it incoming?
So it's about as good as it can get, really.
Yeah.
But it was still a nightmare.
Honestly, man, I've never had inbound. If I had one inbound call centre job, I would have. Honestly, I'd have done anything. I'd have done anything. I'd have been like the face of like Kim Jong-un's re-election campaign. I'd have done anything.
So you were always cold calling?
Cold calling, did charity fundraising for a long time. That's the worst of the worst, because they think they're doing good and they're not. I mean, they are, I guess, but the people in the room are just idiots.
Yeah, it's like the Wolf of Wall Street, but for
Yeah. That was a long stint. I did network research. That was okay, I suppose, because you're not selling people anything.
Yeah.
I did AXA insurance.
Outbound?
Wow. Good
That's
luck. I didn't even know what it was. I tell you, I was like 20. I didn't know what. Yeah, that was a uni. That was like summer job when I was at uni.
Yeah.
Did AXA insurance.
You must have had a script, eh?
Yeah.
Do you know, like, this is one thing, I've never actually spoken about this before, but one thing with the scripts and doing stand-up is, like, did you ever work at a place and they changed the script?
Yeah.
And then you, in your head, was still embedded the old way you said it?
It was always a bloodbath in that office whenever they changed that script. Even if it was 3 words, there'd always be a sizable amount of people, including me, who just couldn't get our heads around it, didn't know why it was changed.
And I think that's the why. So, because you think about, you learn a bit of material and you do it the same way, and so even if it's not quite working or you could reword it, it's hard to get. It's so hard to get that fucking out your muscle memory. And all
I think that is interesting. And I remember actually when I was chasing stand up a bit more and I was doing call center work, thinking, oh, this will help my stand up. This will help me learn to talk to. It didn't. It did nothing.
No.
But I'm surprised that inbound there were scripts.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe you'd have like the catalogue of information, and then you can.
It's more like a kind of yes, go this
novel.
way, and no, go this way kind of thing.
Into the cave.
But you would still have, like, how you answer the call, ask them the question, and then that, and then it's about, and then as you kind of, as you get more experience, like you could just kind of do your own thing. But there's certain things you would need to hit when you're selling or confirming things or whatever. But then you just learn it off by heart.
It was a perfect day job for me as a sort of wannabe comic, because basically it was 0 hours, so I could do it. I could work around my gigs, and you culturally in call centers, at least the ones I was working at, people just stop turning up one day and it's not a problem.
Yeah.
So I never needed to quit. I never needed to like go, hey, I might leave. I'm chasing. I just like all of them. The last 3 call center jobs, I just stopped turning up, like proper old school quitting. You know, that was perfect for me.
You know, I read this really interesting book when I was working there because I was going to try and do more stuff on the call centre on stage. I read this book called Working the Phones, and it was this guy, he was like a university lecturer at London School of Economics or something, and he went like sort of, he got a job in a call centre, like an outbound one like you're describing, and he was like looking at it through a fucking Marxist perspective the whole time. He's like quoting big bits of like Das Kapital as he's like taking you through his job. But there's a really, really interesting bit at one point where he goes, because the whole thing with like you know, Marxism, I used to have a joke about like when I worked in a supermarket, it's like, oh, the people who stack the shelves should own them, and that's like the whole thing. It's like the people who work in the place should own them. But he said, but the actual revolutionary act when you work in somewhere like a call centre is just to leave.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to fucking be the people, nobody wants to answer the phones.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think they look? Maybe they look back at me and they're like, I'm like a Che Guevara.
You're on t-shirts.
Yeah, t-shirt with a speech mark saying, "You cannot talk to me like that." Okay, I'm trying to save money here. I tell you, the worst day I ever had at a call centre is I was doing charity fundraising, and I'd been doing British Heart Foundation and cancer research, and it was a dream. It was a dream because these are just, you know, Bernardo's children's charities. These were the campaigns I was on, and people just inherently know them, want to help, and if they can't help, they're apologetic. And I remember I'd been on Bernardo's, the children's charity, and I'd been doing well. Like, you know, people want to give. And they sat me and a few other people down in an office, and they said, right, we're moving you now. You're now going to make money for Spanish mules. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I had to sit and call people in council estates. They're not even British. Like, it's the only time I've ever been like a Little Englander. I was like, can we
mules.
Yeah. There's mules over here that need saving. They're stepping on landmines. But that was like, what am I supposed to do with that? Come on, man. Like,
that's a tough shift, that.
I don't even care about British mules, if I'm honest, let alone Spanish ones. That's interesting what you said there about quitting.
Yeah,
I do think it's like it's a really tough job. That
yeah, absolutely.
I've had a lot of jobs, never really liked any of them, but that was the one that really sucked on my soul. Like, I don't know if you've watched Severance, that show, but that feeling of like complete disconnect from yourself.
Yeah,
that's the most I've ever had. That is when I was at the call, because people are just threatening you every day on the phone.
Absolutely, man.
My second ever call. On one of them, a man said, if you ever call again, I'm going to find where you are, rip your legs off. I was like, I don't think you get that in most jobs. No.
Even inbound, like you'd get complaints a lot. So it's not like it wouldn't be as bad as that. But see, just not knowing what the next call is going to be and what somebody might be arguing with you about. I think it's bad. It is bad for your mental health. I think
think so.
It's really tough. And I was thinking when you were talking about that there, because it was this in London when you're...
No, I was in Brighton.
I was in Brighton,
right? Yeah.
But you must be like, so at that time you're doing the circuit, and that to me feels like it's like a tough paper round, doing that as your day job. It's a stressful thing. People haranguing you all the time, and you must be looking at other comics at the same level as you are coming up who don't have to do that. And getting by a bit. No, it must have. Because again, maybe your persona on stage is a bit like, you know, it's all falling apart, or like, you know, you're struggling up there in a way, is like the persona of it, and that must have fed into that feeling for you a wee bit though, if you're having to do all that shit. And
yeah, I did feel that. I think I didn't realise until years later how different it was. Like, I didn't know how people were turning professional so early.
Yeah,
I was like, how? But how? I was like, I know that maybe you're a little bit better than me, or you know a few other people, but I'm like, how are you making enough money to pay rent every month? And I'm getting 50 quid a week if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Turns out their dads are millionaires.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it turns out.
Straightforward.
Yeah. And I'm not like a child of the ghetto or anything, but
No.
yeah, it was strange. But again, I'm grateful for it now
Absolutely.
because I feel like I've
You've
I've had
earned
a
it.
lot of wild jobs, basically all minimum wage. Like when I first moved to London, I worked at the Queen Elizabeth II Centre in Silver Service. I was the only native English speaker in the whole thing. I was like serving at conferences and stuff. It was a great experience. I met some wild people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a period of my life I don't look back on with fondness. Going around the country on a coach, doing open spots, coming back, going to the call centre for 8 hours, day after day, week after week. I don't think I could do it again, to be honest.
It's a young man's game, that, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do it again.
Yeah.
Sounds grueling. And as Mark kind of says, like that is a bit of the act, is that, and maybe it was more so that when you were a little newer as well, it's like, fuck me, this is hard. Life is hard.
Yeah,
and
man.
But I wasn't sure how much is just the act and how much is,
I think it was like I definitely was, my mental health was pretty bad for a lot of my 20s, I think. And I think a lot of it is that feeling of like, you have this dream to do comedy and it can really tear you apart, this thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're not careful, and especially because I was basically spending so much of my life alone. I had no friends in the call centre as a rule.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to be here long enough to make friends. And I was always there so long that I was like, I probably should have made a friend by now. I always thought,
I played myself here, now
Yeah,
I'm just
exactly.
a loser with no mates.
I remember doing a shift and a guy started chatting to me. He goes, did you just start? He goes, I'm not seeing you. I went, I've been here for 6 months. But I just was so innocuous. But yeah, that you're spending so much time alone in a call centre and then going to Sheffield or something, doing an open spot, getting the overnight coach back. But whatever. If you're young, you can do that.
Yeah.
There's people who probably do that, who live like that now, who aren't young. And they're not even chasing a big dream of stand-up. They're probably just getting by.
Totally. Aye.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever.
I think that's the thing that keeps you going though in those jobs. If you're not enjoying it and stuff, if you're doing it because you've got a kind of a dream or a goal you're working towards, it's like that's what it makes it worth it. You go, I need this to do that. But then it's hard when that's also you're struggling at that, isn't it? For years, those first few years, those victories seem bigger, don't they? And they need to, because that's what keeps you going.
Yeah, it's like it feels impossible. Like if for a lot of my mid-20s, I was like, this is impossible. Like this is just never going to happen. And of course, I hadn't realised I'd made progress.
Yeah,
because you can't feel it. Because at some point the progress is just about money and about the quality of gigs you're doing. Whereas if you're that close, you're that close to being able to get to the next step.
Yeah,
but you don't know you're that close.
Yeah,
you never know.
Totally.
I actually I wonder if it's easier to start now than it was 10, 15 years ago.
Do you think so?
I don't know. In many ways, some ways probably not.
What makes you say that?
I think the industry today, I just think it's less of a closed shop. But maybe I'm completely wrong about this.
I don't know. It depends what you mean by the industry. I suppose there's like the sort of the people call it the gatekeeping and whatever, but you can blow up on doing stuff on your phone or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's what I mean, yeah.
Sometimes, because people sometimes say to me, like, if they're like, oh, I think they're getting to stand up, whatever, and now I'm a bit like, I don't know, man. Like, I mean, it's a hard road, and I'm like, maybe it would be better just try to make some videos in your house first and seeing if people like them or something. But which seems terrible because, like, obviously people love the craft of stand up and all that. But I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't know what I would advise people to do now.
I suppose I'm viewing this only through my lens, and I think I am only now starting to realise how long it took me to get going. Like, I did a gig on Saturday night in London, and it wasn't like the best gig in the world, but it was like professional opener, closer, professional compare, 2 open spots in the middle. And I asked one of the open spots how long she'd been going, and she'd been going less than a year. And she's saying, it feels like it's tough. And I was like, less than a year? I go, it took me genuinely 3-4 years to get open spots at places like this.
Yeah.
So it could be that I might be the outlier. It could just be that I was.
No,
I look back, I'm like, was I calling people wankers in emails and just forgetting about it? Like, was there some secret code that I forgot? I don't know.
I think everyone feels like that a wee bit, like in terms, especially if you don't get stuff dead early and you see other people doing it. Not only would just like you always worry you've pissed off a club if you don't hear back from them and all that.
Yeah.
But I certainly I remember I felt that way before. Like, you had stuff. You go do competitions when you're starting out, you don't get through, and you're going, God, am I like coming across some way that I'm not aware of?
Oh man, yeah,
all of that, and
that doubt. I mean, does it ever leave though? Because I'm still there. I mean, I'm pretty content and like solid mentally, but every once in a while, I'll have a bad weekend where I'm just like, shit, I'm one of the. It's all been a fluke. Because I remember doing open spots with people who were terrible.
Yeah,
who kept thinking they were really good. And I was like, I think I'm really good. But am I delusional? Am I one of those? I mean, you never know.
I'm still having those thoughts.
I think the difference between being that and being one of them is they never think that.
Nah.
They never think am I delusional. And I think that's healthy in any artist or whatever you want to call it, is that doubt and that question. Am I really a writer? Am I really a performer? Whatever. It's interesting though you say that because weirdly the thing is sometimes people get that delusion that fucking helps them, and in the same bait because like what I make it clear, particularly listeners as well, but like Sean, you're one of these acts on the circuit that everyone like has nothing but like highest of praise for. You're great. I've seen multiple Fringe shows of yours; they're always brilliant. But the weird thing I was what to ask you about is like because people go they go along to Sean show and it's they're really laughing, it's really funny. But the whole time you're talking about how bad things are going for you, and you're like, did you ever worry that become a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy type of thing? And because I'd heard you saying about like, maybe getting overlooked by agents and stuff in your early days as well. And you're like, you think part of it was because it's like, oh, well, like you're being funny about how nothing goes right for you. So everyone's like, well, nothing goes right for him. So
yeah, maybe.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to help him or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
I do wonder about that. I mean, people said that. I did try and take it on board, but I always sort of thought, like a lot of my comedy heroes were really self-deprecating and painting a picture of a sort of, everyday tougher existence. I don't know. I mean, maybe it did. I mean, I definitely feel like something happened. There was clearly a clicking point a few years ago where I changed on stage. And I don't think my attitude changed or I still felt like I was like battling against things, but clearly the way I composed myself meant that I seemed more legitimate to people.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. And I think when you talk about how shit things are going for you and and it's early on in your career, you haven't really got much stagecraft. So it seems very viable that things are going bad. Whereas actually, if you talk about how badly your life's going, like John Mulaney talks about disasters in his life, but you get it because he stands up straight and he's wearing a nice suit and he just seems confident.
Yeah.
I think if you do it with confidence, it kind of doesn't matter. And I think I probably didn't inspire confidence in enough people early on, I guess. But it might have been that. But also I think when I was at the point where I was trying to get agents, what people wanted, like what TV wanted and radio wanted, was not what I was doing. And I always thought I'm a pretty accessible mainstream stand-up. I was repeatedly told that I wasn't. And I was like, I'm just doing jokes. I'm doing one of the gigs. But I wasn't I wasn't a potential like T4 host.
Skinny jeansy.
Yeah, I wasn't like that. So
because you're an artist, because you're chasing the Joseph.
Because I'm chasing Joseph Conrad. I mean, I'm so lame that I still think I'm still like comedy is art and it can change things, and I know it can't, but I think I have to believe that when I try to do things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I know what it could do to me. When I see a comedian be brilliant, I feel like I feel so connected to them.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's what's so special about this.
Yeah.
But I don't know, there's a lot of just fart jokes and stuff.
No, some of my absolute favourite jokes are some of yours, like for sure, like that. You just always remember.
I was thinking that just there as well. Like, there's a few I can just think off the top of my head that I'm like, they'll just absolutely.
I think of you whenever I'm in a Chinese restaurant.
Do you?
Yes, because of you used to have a bit about people slagging you off for not using the chopsticks.
Yeah,
and you're like, well, I mean, I don't want to do a joke to you, but do
it, man. Hit it.
So like, I'm sorry, are we here to eat Chinese food or pretend to be Chinese? it's just one of those I always think.
I loved that bit of material.
It's so funny.
I loved it. and I now know how to use chopsticks, and I hate it.
Yeah.
It's because it is so much worse. And I really did beat myself up for not knowing how to use chopsticks.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
I've
are we
not
doing?
mastered it, yeah.
What are we doing? It doesn't
crazy.
matter. Oh,
Yeah, who gives a
Thank you.
fuck?
I mean, I love stand up. I still love it. I love it at the minute more than ever. I love
That's
writing
great.
jokes. I love putting stuff together. I love seeing how it's all gonna fit. I think I think at the minute I'm good on stage. Like I think I'm, yeah. It's good.
Everything's kind of singing at the minute. You're doing your own tour. You're supporting Ricky in big venues and stuff. You must feel like you're really match fit and.
Yeah, I guess I do. I feel very lucky with how it's turned out. I mean, you need a lot of luck in this game, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. You need a lot of luck, but working hard and being good, is fine. But like without the luck, you haven't got that. You kind of fucked without the luck.
Yeah, but okay, is that as they say, preparation and opportunities, like what luck is or whatever. So it's like you're putting in the shift, and then there you go. It's
that's
like
true.
Ricky Gervais sees you and you're opening
Yeah,
for him on
yeah,
tour, and then
yeah.
you're like, well, fucking
Yeah, that's true.
And everyone's like going, oh, brilliant, that's so class for Sean, because like he's been due a break.
Well, I feel lucky as well because it's like I think the industry, like, well, when I say the industry, I just mean like comedy in general, is so much bigger now. Like I think it's such a boom, and I don't know if there's a bust coming. I don't know if there's a decline, but I don't know. It's like it feels like everyone wants to go and see comedians, and there's so many gigs and
So many people on tour now as well.
some people on tour,
Yeah.
and the like when I started and loads of people started going on tour, there was always this belief that it's going to kill the circuit. But I don't. I actually think it's making the circuit stronger. I think it's a rising tide raises all boats.
Yeah.
But then I live in London, so what the fuck do I know? I mean, it is a bubble. I don't know if it's the same outside, but
No, I think generally as well. I think people always have these fears and stuff, but often it's unfounded. And yeah, I think that like nowadays there is more of a thing of everyone can have their own, their own territory, and it doesn't affect anyone else's. There's enough to go around.
yeah, I feel like it's becoming like wrestling was in like the 80s. Like it's really territorial. And there
Yeah.
are people who are massive in like one part of the country,
Yeah.
and like that's kind of all you need. There's a lot of
Absolutely.
people out there,
And not even in a geographical sense, but also just like tastes wise, different
Yeah.
audiences. Because like people that go and see a particular type of thing is totally different to something else, and they can both have big audiences. It's totally different people going to see it.
Yeah, it's great.
You know,
It's really exciting, don't you think? Like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of crap around, but like it's still pretty exciting.
You mentioned a couple of minutes ago about John Mulaney's suit. When did you start wearing your suit on stage, Sean? And was that part of people viewing you in a different way, do you think? Or was that a conscious decision to try and have people see you differently?
My wife told me to.
Interesting.
It was I never know what to wear anyway in my life. I just don't know I don't know what to wear. I got a weird body type. I'm too long and like I'm very tall, broad, but there's no depth. You know what I mean? I'm like the door of a Wendy house or something. But like she said, you look really nice in suits, and maybe people will take you a bit more seriously if you wear one. And I remember I just wore one around for a day. I was just doing errands and I just put on a suit just out of nowhere. And I was like, I'm standing up straighter. It probably was that, I was standing up straighter. People were like smiling at me. Taxis were stopping if they hailed. Suddenly my life was so different. And I was like, oh, okay, it's interesting. And then I actually also think it does give you something as a performer. I do think that. I've actually not been wearing the suit much recently. Which is interesting because it's been for years. That's all I wore, certainly at big shows, solo shows.
So why have you gone the other way then?
I don't know. I started feeling like, to be honest, I was worried that they wouldn't fit after Christmas. But also, I was like, I needed to make. I don't know why. Something in my instinctively, I was like, oh, I'm gonna just see if I can wear other clothes that are nice. But actually, I think I'm gonna go back to the suit for the tour.
Interesting.
I think it does just give it a sheen for someone like me. And there are plenty of comics who I think a suit would destroy their act.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it's It's that thing. It doesn't. The audience should never feel sorry for you. And if you're in a suit, it's hard to feel sorry. I think you're doing well enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it creates a juxtaposition with the act, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
It'd be interesting though if you did like decide to transcend it, because it's like, well, actually, the suit just gave me the confidence. Now I have the confidence.
Well, yeah. I mean, it might have
that.
actually fulfilled its role.
Yeah.
The suit.
Yeah. But I think it's a great look, and it does make you stand out from a lot of people of our generation, because like nobody's really usually wearing a suit that much.
I need to wear a suit. I'm doing a corporate on Friday.
Oh yeah.
And I got to wear a black tie event, and I'm feeling self-conscious about it already.
Are you?
I've never worn I like wearing suits, but like at weddings and stuff, I feel like a boy at a wedding. I feel like tall, thin people like you look good in suits, whereas I'm a bit more barrely. I don't, you know what I mean.
I like to wear a suit.
The idea
jacket.
of doing my act in a suit just feels fucked.
Sometimes if I'm closing like the Glee or I'm hosting a gig, I'll wear a suit jacket just because I feel it gives me a wee bit more authority.
Yeah.
But sometimes when I'm doing a set, I feel like it makes me look too much like a wanker unless I've got a joke about it. I sometimes come out and I just say like, I put on this suit jacket to look smart, but I just look as though I've been taking coke in the toilets, which I have. And then I guess I laugh, and then it kind of dresses it, but then it means that I can still get the look, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I definitely stopped wearing it at circuit gigs.
Yeah.
And it did do well. Like it wasn't as weird as I felt. But like I'd go and do like Top Secret or something, and it's like a grimy gig in London. And it's like sometimes if you go midweek, people have only paid £2 or £3 to get in. You walk on it, it's like you're auditing the place. What's the Are you allowed to talk about the corporate? Are you worried? Are you okay?
Yeah, we can cut it out if I have to. It's for like an insurance institute.
Lovely stuff.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't want to dress up, but they'll all be wearing black ties, so I need to look the same as them.
I think for a corporate,
I have to.
I like that thing of that's my attitude towards a lot of gigs, is match the audience. Kind of in a way. Some people do the opposite.
I couldn't do that with my audience. I don't want to get a potato sack.
Tell us then, how did opening for Ricky Gervais come about, Sean?
It was an incredibly fortuitous series of events. He was coming back to stand up in what year is it now? 2025. So like 2016.
Yeah,
I think
9 years ago now. It
was a while. Yeah, he hadn't done stand up in a while, and we briefly had the same manager. Like the guy who was managing me at the time, my first proper agent, was working with him on stuff. And Ricky does warm-up shows, and he does loads of warm-up shows, and he'll have other comedians doing 10 minutes during it if he doesn't have enough material yet. And on the day of one of those, someone pulled out, and I was free. So last minute, I got called in.
0% contract.
I'm back. Tell me any script you want me to say. And that was that. And we just turned up, and we got on fine. Then I did well at the gig, and I just thought that was that. And then about 7 or 8 months later, he was doing David Brent live shows. And normally his opener would be Doc Brown, had been opening for him on his stand-up tour. But Doc Brown was in the show. He was in the David Brent live show.
Yeah.
So he couldn't open for him. So I got the call, like out of nowhere, to come and open in 2 arenas for David Brent. And I still think like this is
that's surreal, isn't it?
This
Not
is
even the character.
I mean, this is without any shadow of a doubt, the maddest moment of my career was I was sat in a dressing room in Bournemouth in an arena. I've never played an arena. I've never even dreamt of playing an arena. And there's a knock on the door, and it's David Brent. It's not the guy I met before. It's like Bugs Bunny's knocked on the door. Like he had the beard and the suit.
He's fixing the tie.
It was crazy. And then I did those 2 shows.
How does he warm up? Do the dance?
Yeah.
Is he like method backstage?
It was pretty. I did those 2 shows. I went out that night in Bournemouth, ate shit like you wouldn't believe. Learned a lot. Next night, opened an arena in Brighton. Did much better. Thought that was it. I just thought that was it. And then he was on this big international stand-up tour, and his regular support, Doc Brown, there were shows he couldn't do, and I would just get called in and like he needs you for 2 nights in Plymouth, and then 4 weeks will go by, he needs you for 2 nights here, 2 nights here. And then eventually he did another tour. I think Doc Brown was stepping away from stand-up.
Yeah.
And I just became, because I'd got good at the job. Or, you have to learn how to play those rooms a little bit. And it just kept going. I mean, I feel very lucky. It's really helped me a lot. And it's really, you get the chance to play crazy rooms and go to crazy places, and
absolutely,
yeah, I feel very lucky to have got it. Yeah.
And you say you need to learn. What specifically did you learn, or do you learn from doing these rooms, and how do you play them versus like the normal gigs you'd be doing?
I mean, some of them are like so enormous. It's like you don't even know where to begin. And the thing is, in Britain, and we do a lot in Europe, Britain, it's different because audiences come in late in this country. People have no respect for a support act. And I know that because I don't. Whenever I go and see bands, I'm like, I'm not going to the opener.
Yeah.
What a traitor to my own kind. Like, there should be a kinship there, but I haven't got that. So you basically, a lot of the time, it's getting better now, actually. But early on, I would go on stage, and the room would be half full if you're lucky, and people are finding their seats. So I'd have to start very slowly. And then you sort of, by about 10 minutes in, they're at their seats. And so actually then the last 10, 15 minutes is when you can really do something. But the truth is, it's there's little tricks you learn. But if you're good, you're good. And if you're not, you're not. And I've had some terrible deaths, but I've also had some smashes.
Yeah.
And it's the same as it eventually becomes kind of the same. Yeah. The biggest barrier is psychological, because you just can't believe how it could be good, but it always can be. I mean, usually it can be. And actually the best thing is, this is a genuine tip, and I gave this to someone recently and they said it was good. So that's nice, because I don't usually give good advice. But if you're doing an arena and there's screens, if you're doing an arena, first of all, it's a much bigger space. So your impulse is going to be to go bigger with everything. But actually, if there's screens, most people are watching the screens. So facially, you can go very subtle. You can actually go way more, you can perform way more subtly in a huge arena. Yeah, in an arena than in a theatre.
Yeah.
Because people are looking at the close-up. So there you go. That's a brilliant, proper Sean McLoughlin arena tip there.
Our mate Ray Bradshaw was opening for John Bishop, and he said that he learned that you should always wear something dark when the screens, because when he was wearing like a whatever it was, like a yellow top or something, he said that when like whatever the angle was the camera would go at any time to do that, it would just light up so much of the crowd.
I was told that actually on this tour, because I'd forgotten that. I was told that years ago. They said always wear a dark shirt, and then I started wearing like a navy blue, or maybe like a baby blue colour shirt. And it's also because I think that the screen has to adjust to the resolution even of the brightness.
Yeah.
And actually it hurts people's
eyes.
Yeah. That's what I can live with that.
Yeah.
I always think if you want to enjoy my set, you got to put up with it.
It'd be funny to just see like thousands of people like,
come on, it wasn't that bad.
I'd be curious to hear like where your favourite places has been doing that, or the maddest ones. The one I seen in your Instagram story a while ago was playing Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It's fucking nuts, man. It's fucking nuts.
It's like Elvis played there and shit.
I mean, it was crazy. My dressing room, there was a huge picture of Judy Garland playing it. And that alone, I was like, I shouldn't be here. This is a problem. And then what was good about the Hollywood Bowl was I'd never been to LA before. I'd never done a gig there. My first ever gig in California and LA was in the Hollywood Bowl.
That's great.
Which is pretty cool, I guess.
Insane.
But like everyone was freaking out. Everyone. No one had ever done a show there. None of the crew had done a show there. I'd never done a show. Ricky had never been there. The promoters. So like, because I travel with the crew really, and I hang out with the crew a lot.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's a good bunch of people. And none of us had ever been to the Hollywood Bowl. So everyone was sort of feeling the same as I was, which was a nice feeling. But then I was in my dressing room and they kept coming in, telling me other celebrities that were in the audience. They were like, I'll just to let you know, Dave Grohl's in the audience. front row. I'm like, who else was there? Beck.
Did he turn up in time for the opener?
Well, I'll tell you who didn't actually. Beck is my favourite singer. And I saw on his Instagram story, he's at the show. And my walk-on music is Beck. It's Devil's Haircut. And so I'm thinking, I'm going to write to him. This is it. This is my moment to interact with Beck. And I send him a message and I go like, oh, I was the opener, always been a huge fan. I hope you don't mind a guy like me using your music as walk-on. And then I saw that he'd seen it. And then he started typing. I've been in LA for 48 hours. I'm like, I just can't believe it's all going to happen for me. It's like when you saw me in Clapham. It's all going to happen. And he gets the message back and he just says, oh, hey, man, sorry, I was parking the car. Missed your set. Anyway, cheers. Oh. I was like, oh, Beck.
He could have pretended.
He could have pretended. As a Scientologist, what are you going to do? But it was pretty mad. Like a load of celebs. And then there was like an after party. And I was like, it was just, you just have to kind of accept, oh, this is a bit crazy. Yeah. You know? It's a bit like if you're doing a podcast in someone's shed in Glasgow. You're like, oh, this is a weird life.
As its ups and its downs.
But I remember I was talking to this old guy for ages. I wanted to talk to the cool people. I was in the sort of loser corner. But like, but there was this old guy, he was Slayer's old manager. And I had to like help him steal sandwiches from the buffet. And I thought, are you not doing well or something? What's going on? And then this woman came up to me and went, I thought you were brilliant. I just thought you were fantastic. Me and my husband thought you. And then she left. And then the old rocker I was with was like, you just met the greatest songwriter in American history. I was like, oh, right. And her name's Diane Warren.
Yeah.
And she wrote all of the ballads. She wrote like Turn Back Time by Cher, Don't Want to Miss a Thing. She was the richest person in that room. I'll tell you that. She must have been. Like, she's won more Grammys than anyone. So it was a pretty cool... Yeah, sorry, I'm sort of rambling. Too much happened in that day. But the weirdest thing is it's an outdoor gig. There's 17,000 people. I go on at 7:30. The sun is out. By the time the set finishes, the sun has set. So the atmosphere is shifting.
Yeah. But
I tell you this, I was quite emotional afterwards because I was like, God, all those years, and I've come here. It's been worth it. And Ricky was on, and I took my pass. I was like, I'm just going to walk around. I'm just going to go to the back of the room, it's not even a room, fucking the valley or whatever, and just see what I've done. And I walked out, and I was just walking up around the sides, and I was just sort of trying to take it in. You know, there's a lot to take in, and a guy saw me and just was making a beeline, and I thought, I'm about to get recognised. This is gonna. And I was like, I know this. Comes to me, pushes past me, starts throwing up in the bush. So humbling. But yeah, pretty wild.
Get to know that the Hollywood Bowl's got the same thing going on as like some of your circuit gigs.
Oh man, you never get out of like the Frog and Bucket. No. you're always at the Frog and Bucket, even if you don't think you are.
It's the Frog and Bowl.
That was pretty cool. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I feel very lucky to have done that. Yeah.
No, but I mean, you've earned it, Sean. Because again, it's like as I say, you're so well thought of in the circuit. A great stand-up, and it's it's amazing. I'm so glad.
Yeah, it's great, man.
Oh, thanks, guys. But it's also like the thing is, you did that, and then the next night, I did. Oh man, I've dropped some names.
Yes.
I don't talk about this very much, but I got booked in to do a show at a magic club.
Comedy and Magic Club? Is it that one?
I don't know what it was. Maybe it was. Or it was called like it was like a card. I don't know what it was. But it was like a little room. There was only about 40 people in. But like there was no compare. And everyone's you have to introduce the next act.
Yeah.
What do they call it? I think they've got a name for it over there. We don't really do it here. I think it's called like a relay or something.
Right. That's how I've been to the Comedy Store in LA before, and that's what they do. Just every act brings on the next act, rather than having a host in between.
So it would have been like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And they were saying, so John's gonna bring you on. I didn't know who. I'd only had about 2 hours sleep. I was just still kind of, I didn't even soaking up being in LA, let alone
totally
playing the bowl or whatever. Anyway, I get a tap on my shoulder, and the guy's going to introduce John Mulaney.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what? and he's asking how to pronounce my name. So it's a very surreal moment. He introduces me. He's just done his last special. He does 35 minutes. It's some of the best stand-up I've ever seen in my life.
Brilliant.
I've ever seen. Brings me on. I don't say this lightly. One of the worst deaths I've ever had.
Oh, man.
It was so. I was just. I was all at sea from minute one. So you just immediately. You're always
Back to the frog.
It's always the frog.
Did
man.
he at least compliment your suit?
Wasn't even wearing it.
Oh no,
What
that's
a-
why. That's
What a joke! What am I doing?
Should go with the
Amateur.
suit.
I don't know. I don't like. I shouldn't have said that. I probably
No,
should have
that's
bit
like-
up myself.
No, that's a great.
Only you would
experience.
apologise for telling an anecdote where you've died on your arse. In the anecdote.
I don't want to brag, but I really ate pure shit there, guys.
It's funny you mentioned about that guy being sick of the Hollywood Bowl because I watched your I think it's your last special and
Yeah.
like the one, but I remember seeing it at the Fringe where you go and sit in the crowd and stuff. But during that, it's like there's a woman that's like heckles quite a lot and then fell asleep or something. Like,
Yeah, man, that was the worst fucking night. Doing this big tour. It's
pretty
up and
raj
down.
crowd that night, eh?
Jeez Louise, man. Easily if you were to like pick the worst crowd of the tour to film the special, it was that night. And it was like Bristol was like it was meant to be a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Like great city for comedy. I always play it. I sell well. This woman just would not shut up.
Yeah.
And then at one point she falls asleep during my set. And I was like, I mean, I'm really fighting for my life. I'm recording a special and I'm like trying to get, it's like I'm doing a gong show. I'm just trying to get through it. I'm just trying to get through it. And
The special is 3 minutes 20 long.
Spiky Mike's at the side of the stage, like. But it was, it was pretty crazy special. Like it took me a long time to sort of come to peace with the fact that it is what it is because I just wanted it to be like all jokes, smashing it.
Yeah.
And it's all jokes and it's not smashing it. But it's good. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
But like it's definitely like a live, it feels like a live gig.
Live experience.
Yeah,
But again,
yeah.
it sort of adds to like what you're doing anyway, and you're like talking about it all falling apart, and then it is kind of falling apart legitimately in the room, but it's still going well. It's just that there's a couple of people that are fucking disruptive.
Yeah.
But
I suppose the frustration I sometimes get with stuff like that is, and it's not true, it's all in my head, is I'm always like, there probably are a few people in comedy in this country who think, oh, he just fucking has a breakdown or something. I'm like, it's because I work so hard on the jokes. And the idea that people think that I always want people to know, like, I really care about my jokes and stuff like that.
absolutely.
But also, if something's happening in the room, I think that's what's fun about stand-up is you can make something bigger happen, you know.
Totally.
But yeah, that special was crazy. But people I think people enjoyed it. And most of my audiences are pretty nice, normal, and they sit and they laugh. And yeah, if I was getting that every show, I would just quit.
And you're on tour with your new show in the spring and the summer.
White Elephant?
White Elephant. Yeah. Do people know what that means?
I don't. I've seen it on the poster. I thought it looked cool.
Thank you.
I vaguely...
I've made a huge mistake with this title. I was watching a documentary about the Olympics, about how no one wants to host the Olympics because of a white elephant is like a construction project.
All right, it's been abandoned after.
Yeah, or it's
Right.
too much. It costs too much money to build and to maintain. It can only do one function. And I saw that and I thought, oh, that's like me. All this time and effort, and I can do one thing. I just thought that was a nice phrase.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going across the country, going across Europe, really loving it. It's been 3 years since my last tour, and the last one was like took a lot out of me, and then I had like that year doing like America and stuff. I was with Gervais and doing other things,
Yeah.
and so I sort of didn't really know what I wanted to do, and now I'm back loving the stand up. Booked all the shows in myself. Really happy with who's coming. Really excited. In a way that I've done a couple other tours and I've had like a sort of dread in me. I don't know if you feel like that when you go on tour, like a sort of, I don't feel that for this one. I feel, which I suppose cut to my car catching fire and me being arrested and
You're getting punched in the special, and you know.
yeah, she's back and she's brought her friends.
It's great though. It's cool that you can tour across Europe and stuff as well. That's not many people can really do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one benefit of the Ricky stuff is he plays well in Europe, but also I've been going out to Europe for like I was getting paid 20s in Europe before I was getting them here.
Wow.
Really?
Or I was sort of chasing them, so I would go to like the Netherlands and Copenhagen and places like that, and it's a great scene we got. It's a European scene now. I think more than even a British scene. It's tough, but like if you're willing to put the legwork in, there's a real hunger for stand up across the place.
I worry. I think you might be a wee bit better, Stuart, but I worry with the Scottish thing would be a barrier with the accent a wee bit.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, a wee bit.
I never know. I mean, when you travel, how do you find it?
Well, I mean, I've not really done much abroad. But anytime, to be honest, like Edinburgh tends to get a lot of tourists a lot of the time when we play there regularly, and obviously London as well. And I mean, when I'm in England, anytime it's just slowing down, being more clear, and being a bit more precise. And I think I could do it, but I almost think like. Wonder whether you would be less likely to get booked for that type of stuff just because people might assume.
Risk, yeah.
But even when I've seen like James Acaster talking about Americans not understanding his accent and stuff, I've got they fucking can't understand him. I've got no chance.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, what are you gonna do with Americans? It fucking doesn't anything. I mean, I have to slow down.
Yeah,
I've got a pretty bass Southern accent. So maybe there's something in that, but where there's a will, there's a way.
absolutely.
And I'm sure you could do that. It'd be good for you to get a elocution lesson or two. But I mean, it's the way I think that's the way it's going anyway. I think there's a lot. Stand up is popular.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of markets that maybe didn't exist when we started.
emerging markets in Europe, you think?
I mean, I don't know, but like even on this tour, like I've been booked into a gig in Slovenia. I've been offered tour shot. I've never been to Slovenia. Never heard of the city I'm going to.
Wow.
But if they're willing to, if they want me to go, I'll go.
Definitely.
But really excited. Shall I talk about the Glasgow show?
Yeah.
Do it. You got to pretend that's your favourite one.
Why? It is my favourite. It's probably I love gigging up here.
Oh,
I love it. Yeah, I'm doing the Glee. I'm not. I couldn't do the timings with the other venues, but like the Glee is like I've never done the Glee in Glasgow, and it's on the 16th of April. Just fucking come, guys.
Yeah,
just come.
Highly recommend.
Can't recommend Sean stand up enough.
And I'm trying to keep the tickets cheap as well because it's self-produced, so it's only 14 quid.
Yeah.
So it's cheaper than it was 3 years ago.
There you go.
Which was such a good idea in principle, and then inflation really did start to bite. And now I'm losing a lot of money. But, anyway, it'd be good to see you there.
Absolutely. Well, we highly recommended.
Yeah,
Please go and see Sean
100%.
when he's back in Glasgow. And thanks so much for joining us as well, Sean.
No worries.
Is there anything else you want to plug?
I saw September the 5th, that new thriller the other night.
Oh yeah, good.
Yeah, go see that. It's a good film.
Nice. Check that out as well.
You meant something that I'm doing.
Well, whatever you want. I don't mind.
Yeah.
His agents told him he's not allowed to do this.
Yeah, I'm not doing anything. I'm doing one gig in Glasgow, nothing else going on.
Well, thanks again for joining us, Sean.
Yeah, cheers, Sean.
And before we go, please just as ever remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can follow us at SomeLaughPod on Instagram, TikTok and Twitter, and send any questions you've got to the email address, which is somelaughpod@gmail.com. Thanks a lot for tuning in, guys, and we'll speak to you very soon.
Cheers. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, guys.